Okay, good day. This is Math 130, Introduction to Statistics. I'm Professor McCulley. This lesson 00A, getting to know your TI-84. So if you are a regular TI-84 user, this may not be very helpful to you, but if this is the first course in which you've been required to use a graphing calculator, certainly this might be of some help to you. So I want to talk about some things about the graphing calculator. We're going to look first at the front face. We're going to talk. I'm going to talk about the basic operators and the clear button. So here's my front face of my graphic calculator. Here are your number keys. Here are your basic operator keys. And so it does regular operations, but what's neat about this graphing calculator is that it will follow the order of operations. So if you are asked to evaluate something, you can type it in, and as long as you type it in correctly with the correct operators, the correct parentheses, it will follow the order of operations perfectly. So if we go 3 times 8 minus 4, and then I hit this squared button here, it will follow the order of operations. It will say, okay, inside parentheses, I've got to go 8 minus 4. That's going to give me 4. It's going to square that, give me 16. And then 16 times 3 is 48. So when I hit the Enter key, that tells us to do whatever operation we have set up. So we get that 48 there. The clear key, if you look right here, the clear key is right there, and it will empty whatever is in the screen. And in fact, there's a couple of things it'll do. If you have an operation already in it, and then if you've started an operation, so if I wanted to do that, if I hit clear once, it's just going to clear out that operation, but if I hit clear the second time, it'll clear out everything. The minus key versus the negative key. We have two keys that look like they are the same thing. This is the subtraction key, and this is the negative key. And so if you want to make something negative, you have to hit this key. If you want to do a subtraction, you have to hit this key. So if I want to go 3 minus, or 6 minus 3, if I go 6 minus 3 right there, it does the subtraction. But if I go 6 and then I hit that negative key and then hit 3, this thing is implying 6, and then when you put something next to it, it implies a multiplication because this is negative 3. It's going to multiply that and give me the negative value there. So you could have an issue. Just got to be careful. Makes it negative, and so essentially you can think of it this. This is like plus a negative. This is like multiply by -1, whatever the negative is in front of. The STO button, if you want to store some values, you can do that. If you have something that you're going to use over and over again, or if you have an answer to a part, let's say we have a question that has multiple parts, and you have a part A, a part B, and a part C, and you're going to use the answer from part A in both B and C, and you want to use as many decimal places as possible, you can store that. And so the store key is right next to the 1. It's like a STO with a little arrow. And so let's say I do a calculation where I get as an answer this big long decimal, and I want to use as many decimal values as humanly possible. I don't want to round, keep my rounding error, but I don't want to type this every single time that I have to use it. I can use the alpha key, which is the green key in the upper left-hand corner, and alpha gives me a lock value for all of the letters. So if the alpha key is green, and you can see that there are green A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way down through Z. And you can use any of those as storage places for different values. So I hit my alpha. If I hit math, oops, I want to store it first. So 5.987654321. I want to store that, so I hit the store key, and then I hit the alpha key and I hit the A key. So now when I hit enter, in A, anytime I use A, I'm going to type in all of those digits. So if I want to go 3 times whatever that number is, I can just go 3 times and then alpha A, and it's going to multiply by that value, and I'll get that number. And you can use it over and over and over again. Next, the caret key, and I'm going to talk about the caret key and the D-pad together here because they kind of go together. First, the caret key is an exponent key, and then what I call the D-pad is this arrow key, and you can use these arrows to bop around however you want. You can hit the up arrow key and you can bop in and redo some of the values. So if I said, oops, I screwed up this problem and it should have been 4 times A, I can't do it that way, sorry. But you can bop around with the up arrow key. But let's say I wanted to do an exponent. So if I have an exponent here, let's say I want to do 6 to the 3rd power. I'm going to go 6. I hit that up arrow key. I'll get a little box here. If I hit 3, now let's say I want to subtract 10 from that. Well, to get it out of the exponent, I hit this right arrow key, and then I'm going to subtract 10, hit enter, and that gives me that. And so this arrow key or this caret key is what you're going to use for exponents, with the exception of square, because there is a squared button right there. The delete button, you can delete things as you're writing it. So this is, I'm actually gonna call an audible here and do the insert key as well while I'm at it, I think. And so let's say I wanted to do 17 times 4 minus 18. And so I go times 4. Let's say, okay, start over. Let's say I wanted to do 17 times 4 minus 16. So and I say, oops, I said I wanted to do 17 times 4. Well, I can't, I don't have to retype this. I can use my D-pad. I can come over here to this where I want that 7 to go. I can hit the second key, this blue key, and this delete button, whose second function is insert. So if I hit the second function and then insert, I can insert the 7 and now hit enter, and I've done that to make a mistake, get rid of the mistake. Now, let's say I wanted to do 17 times 4 minus 16, and I did this. And I said, oops, I've got this extra 4 here that I don't want. I can bop over there with my arrow key and hover over that number that I want to get rid of, hit the delete key, and then hit enter, and it will do the calculation for you. The mode button, this is very important for if you're doing trigonometry. And so the mode button is right next to the second key, and the mode key brings up a lot of cool features for your graphing calculator. If we're in statistics, there is one thing that we definitely want to change while we're here, but math print is the standard usage for the TI-84 series. The classic is what it would look like if you were using a TI-83. Normal means it's just going to give you decimal places correctly. If you go over to Scientific SCI, you'll get the scientific notation for everything. Float means it gives you as many decimal places as possible, but you can have it go to any number of decimal places every time, so 5 decimal places. Radians and degrees, the default mode for measuring angles on the graphing calculator is radian mode. So if you're doing trig in degrees, so let's say you're taking a physics problem or end up taking pre-calculus or something and you need to change over, and you're using degrees, you do have to change it there. Function, real, horizontal, and then what we want to do is come down here. So if you're in my stats class, you definitely want to come down here to stat diagnosis, because we'll use it eventually, and we'll talk about it in class. And you want to turn that to on, and I can't show you what we're going to use it for right now, but we'll get there, and it'll be good. So the mode button. Let's see, next. Important second functions. So if you go to your graphing calculator, and I didn't do quit, but to always get to that home screen, that starting screen, if you see the mode button that we were using, if I go second and then I hit that mode button, that second feature is the quit feature, and that will take you out of everything and get you back to the standard window. We can hit clear and get rid of that. So let's see here. ANS, the ANS second feature. So these are all going to be features that are the second features of the button, and they are listed in blue above and to the left of each button. So the second feature of the 7 button looks like a lowercase u. The second feature of the 1 button is list 1, and the second feature of the negative key is this ANS function. And so what ANS does is it allows you to use the last solution put into the calculator. So let's say I had to take second square root of 5 times 9, something like that, and get this irrational number. And then my next question asks me to use this value in the next thing. So let's say it says that I need to multiply this times 4 and subtract 5. I can go 4, and then I can hit second, and then I can hit answer, because that's going to go 4 times, and then minus that 9. It's going to plug this number in there, multiply by 4, and subtract 9. So this is close to 7, so 4 times that's going to be something close to 28. And then subtract 9 would give me something close to 19. So if I hit enter, it's 17 point something. So we're pretty close there. I'm fairly confident that that was correct. But while we're talking about it, the entry key, which is kind of cool. Actually, let me do one more with the answer key. Let me do the entry and the answer at the same time. So here's something also cool. The second function of the enter button is the entry key. And what it will do is it will put up to 10 of the last operations. So if you want to redo an operation, so let's say I want to do this operation again. If I hit second and then I hit entry, it will bring that last value up. And so when I hit enter, I get a different value. Why? Because this ANS value here isn't using this one that I used before. It uses the one that's immediately before it. So it's using 17. So let's say I wanted to do this value again. If I go second and I hit the entry key, it'll bring up that one. Second and the entry key again, it'll bring up the one above it. If I hit second and the entry key again, it brings up that one before it. And it'll do 10 different things. It'll keep 10 different things in it. So let's say I wanted this value again, but I didn't want to multiply by 4. I want to multiply by 3. So I can hit enter, and now I can go 3 times second answer, and now minus 9, and now it will use that same value again, and I get the value that I'm looking for. The quit, I already did the quit. The distribution, this is for statistics specifically. We haven't got to that yet, but we're going to do some probability, and then once we get through probability, we'll start doing distribution stuff. The distribution key is the second value of the vars key, which is right below the down arrow key. And we're going to use normal PDF and normal. This is normal CDF is cumulative distribution function. Inverse normal is the opposite. If you're given a percentage, it'll give you the mean, I think. But these three we will use as we go through. I did the insert, so let's go to the next one here. The math button has a lot of cool things that we'll be using as we move through. So we have the fraction key, and so what's cool about the fraction key, or the fraction expression, if I clear this out, I can put in any decimal that I want, so 0.25, and then if I hit math and I hit fraction, it'll take whatever this value is and turn it into a fraction, whatever decimal, turn it into a fraction, provided that the denominator is no more than 4 places. So we know that 0.25 is a quarter, it changes it to a quarter. And so if you do a bunch of operations and you know your answer needs to be into a fraction, you can stick that on the end and it will do the fraction, it'll change it to a fraction. Number, absolute value is another thing that you might use. And so if I go to math, I have a number of different Menu tabs. The first one is the math. You get the fraction. You've got a cubed key, although I would use the caret to do cubed. And you also have an xth root, so you could do the fifth root. But I would say again, use the caret key and make it a rational exponent. It just seems to me like that's easier. But over in the number feature, you have the absolute value. So if you want to take the absolute value of a number, you can do that. So if I hit 1, you see the absolute value keys. If I take -6 and I hit enter, it makes it +6. So if you have an expression that you want to figure out what the absolute value is, you could do that. Back to the math key, over to number. This will round. This is the greatest integer function. So in LCM, if you do the LCM of two numbers, it'll find the least common multiple of two numbers. Greatest common divisor, if you put in two numbers, it'll find the greatest common divisor. Complex numbers, we're not going to deal with a whole lot of complex numbers in this one, but we are going to deal with some probability stuff. The big ones are 2, 3, and 4, although number 1 is a random number generator. It'll give you a decimal between 0 and 1 randomly calculated. This is permutations, so NPRs, and then NCR is combinations and factorial. And then you also have a fraction thing, and again, you can enter fractions if you want to, but there's actually an easier way to do it. So let's say I wanted to add a quarter plus, say, 2/3, right? I could hit this alpha key and then the y equals, and I get this fraction expression. So if I hit 1, now I can go 1, and then I can use my arrow key and hit 4, come over to here, hit my right arrow key to get it away from the fraction, and then I want to add to that 3 or 2/3. So I'm going to hit set alpha, I'm going to hit the y equals again, I'm going to hit 1, and then we can go 2, hit down, hit 3. And because we're adding fractions, it's going to give us the result as fractions, which is kind of cool there. Also in this is a conversion from fractions to decimals. So if I was given this fraction here and I wanted to convert to decimals, we could do this. We could go second answer, and then alpha y equals, and then I could hit 4, and it's going to change that value to a decimal. So 11 over 12 is 0.91666. And then the other thing it does is it also does mixed numbers, so units, numerator, denominator. You can do it that way, or you could have that as well if you wanted. I don't usually use that, but there you go. I think I've done all those. Let's see here. Some other things in the stat button: edit, sort, and clear list. And so whenever we hit the stat button, the first thing we normally want to do is we want to clear data. So if I hit the stat button and I hit edit, you can see that I have some data from previous videos. If I want to clear that data out, I can hit the stat button and then I hit 4, and it tells us to clear list. Now if you saw I had 2 lists there, I can clear out both of those lists, and they are the second feature of the 1 button and the 2 button. So if I hit second and then 1, I'll get clear out list 1, and then if I want to do this second one, I have to separate it by a comma. Now the comma button is right above the 7, and let's clear out that second list there like that. We'll hit enter, it'll say done. If I go to stat and I hit edit, you can see I have no data in my lists. Now, sort A and sort D. Sort A is sort ascending, and so it'll start with the lowest value and sort to the largest value. If I hit sort D, it'll start with a sort descending, and so it'll start with the largest value and then descend, and sometimes that's useful. Yeah, let me put some random values in. So I go 4, I go 9, I go 12, I go 3, I go 5, I go 7, I go 25, and I go 19 like this. So I've got some random data. And if I want to sort that from the lowest to the smallest, I can hit stat and then I can hit number 2, sort A. And so the list that I want to sort is L1. We close that parenthesis there. It says it's sorted. So now when I hit stat and edit, we can see that it has been listed from smallest to greatest. And now if I want the 25 on top and I want it going down, it's a simple matter of now going sort D, and again telling it what list I want to sort. And now when I hit stat and edit, the 25 is at the top, and those data values have been listed in descending order. The calculate feature, the first variable stats, linear regression, and general discussion about regression. And so if I go stat and I go over to calculate, if I hit my right arrow key, okay, well, I thought it had locked up on me. Maybe it has locked up on me. There we go. So first variable stats, that tells us a little bit about some different things in there. So if I hit enter, I have data in L1. Frequency list is for weighted means and frequency distributions, means of frequency distributions. I hit calculate here. We get our first variable stats. X bar is the average. This is the sum of the data. This is the sum of the squares of the data. This is the sample standard deviation. This is the population standard deviation. There are 8 elements. And then here are your five number statistics. So your minimum, your lower quartile, your median, your upper quartile, and your maximum value. And then you just have to subtract if you want to get a range. Also in that calculate menu is linear regression, which we will do in this class. It'll give you the linear regression. And so basically, if you have a scatter plot of paired data, it will give you the least squares regression line, so a line of best fit. And you don't want to do that by hand, but you can. It'll give you a good line of best fit, and you'll see that there are other types of regression. You can have a quadratic regression that'll give you a quadratic polynomial that best fits the line. Cubic will give you a cubic polynomial, quartic. Linear regression with a plus bx just kind of flips flops. LN regression is the natural logarithm regression, which we won't do in this class. Exponential regression, y equals ab to the x. And power regression, logistic curve, a sign regression. So there's a lot of different statistical analysis of data that we can use to make predictions. And then finally, if I go over to tests, we got a z-test, a t-test, a 2-sample z, and a 2-sample. These are some fairly significant statistical modeling tests that you can do with paired data, and yeah, we may get to that in this class, and you may have to do it if you go to Stats 101. All right, that's pretty quick. And again, if you have questions, feel free to ask me, but that's all I got. Have a good day.